The council chamber erupted into chaos the moment Ambassador Kyle Morrison slammed his fist on the podium. The holographic displays flickered as every species representative in the galactic unity fell silent. They had never seen a human this angry before. "You destroyed the colony on New Terra," Kyle said, his voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "Gone. And you dare call it a police action?" The Vrecht High Commander, a 7-foot insectoid creature with mandibles that clicked nervously, stepped forward. "The humans were warned. Your expansion into the Outer Rim violated treaty protocols. We merely enforced galactic law." Kyle laughed, but there was no humor in it. Behind him, Captain Linda Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet stood at attention, her hand resting on her sidearm. The gesture was not lost on the council members who had studied human body language over the past decade. Enforced? Kyle pulled up a hologram showing the devastation. Cities reduced to glass. Forests turned to ash. The children's playgrounds melted into twisted metal. Orbital bombarded a civilian colony because we planted crops 20 light-years beyond an arbitrary line you drew without consulting us. The Killen Ambassador, a floating jellyfish-like being, pulsed with calming colors. "Ambassador Morrison, please understand, the galaxy has maintained peace for 3,000 years through strict adherence to territorial boundaries. Your species is young. You do not comprehend the delicate balance required." "We comprehend murder," Linda said quietly, speaking for the first time. "We comprehend genocide. We've seen it before in our own history. We know exactly what this is." The Vrecht commander's mandibles clacked dismissively. "You humans overreact? Your species has been in space for barely 50 years. You have 27 colonies and a fleet of primitive warships. The Vrecht Dominion alone commands 12,000 systems and battle fleets that have subjugated entire sectors. You will accept our judgment and pay the reparations we demand for your treaty violation, or face the consequences." Kyle Morrison reached into his jacket. Security drones immediately activated, humming to life around the chamber. But Kyle only pulled out a small data chip. He inserted it into the podium. "This is a message from President Martinez of Earth," Kyle said. "She asked me to deliver it personally." The hologram shifted. President Carmen Martinez appeared, standing in the Oval Office, flanked by military commanders. Her face was carved from stone. "To the Galactic Unity Council," she began, "you have killed our people. You have destroyed our homes. You have demonstrated that your laws value territory over life, politics over morality. Earth does not accept your judgment. Earth does not recognize your authority. As of this moment, humanity declares a state of war against the Vrecht Dominion and any power that stands with them." The chamber exploded into shouts and alarmed calls. The Yellen ambassador's colors flashed red. The Vrecht commander lunged toward Kyle, but Linda had her weapon drawn in a heartbeat. "You declare war on us?" the commander shrieked. "You will be exterminated within a month." Kyle smiled coldly. "You really should have studied human history more carefully. We're very good at war. It's practically all we did for 10,000 years before we reached the stars." The hologram behind him changed again, showing Earth's fleet mobilizing. But these were not the small patrol ships the galaxy had grown accustomed to seeing. These were massive dreadnoughts, carriers and destroyer squadrons emerging from hidden shipyards throughout the Sol system. "What is this?" the Yellen ambassador whispered. "This is what humans do when you threaten our families," Kyle said. "We prepare, we adapt, we survive, and we never ever forget." Captain Hayes tapped her comm unit. "Admiral Chen, you are greenlit. Commence Operation Righteous Fury." Across the galaxy, humanity's hidden strength began to move, and the Galactic Unity realized far too late that they had made a terrible mistake. The War Council of the Vrecht Dominion gathered in their command citadel on Vrecht Prime, confident that the human uprising would be crushed within days. Supreme Overlord Krath sat upon his throne of conquered worlds, his exoskeleton decorated with the bones of defeated enemies. Around him, his 12 high commanders stood at attention, their mandibles clicking with anticipation. "Show me the human fleet," Krath demanded. The holographic display activated, revealing the positions of Earth's forces, but something was wrong. The tactical officer, a younger Vrecht named Skell, manipulated the controls frantically. "Supreme Overlord, our scout ships are reporting unusual readings. The human vessels are not where our intelligence predicted. They appear to be using some form of stealth technology we cannot penetrate." Kraft's mandibles snapped together in irritation. "Impossible. Human technology is primitive. They barely achieved faster-than-light travel half a century ago. Find their ships and destroy them. Yes, Supreme Overlord, Skell replied, but his voice carried uncertainty. 3 star systems away, aboard the Earth battleship Valiant, Admiral Richard Chen studied the tactical display with satisfaction. Around him, his bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of their stations. Admiral, the Vrecht have taken the bait, reported Commander Paul Stevens, the tactical officer. Their fleet is moving to intercept our decoy drones near the Kepler belt. Excellent, Chen said. Approximately 14 minutes, sir. Their sensors are more advanced than we anticipated, but the quantum signature mimics are holding. Chen nodded. The quantum signature technology had been Earth's most closely guarded secret for the past 20 years. While the galaxy believed humanity was struggling with basic space travel, human scientists had been working on technologies that defied conventional physics. Technologies born from desperation, innovation, and the unique human tendency to think outside established parameters. Contact Captain Gregory Martin on the Intrepid, Chen ordered. Begin Phase 2. Light years away, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant, Captain Martin received his orders. His ship, along with 47 other vessels, had been waiting in complete radio silence for 3 days. The crew was tired, anxious, but ready. All hands battle stations, Martin announced over the shipwide comm. This is what we trained for. The Vrek think we're barbarians playing at war. Let us show them what humanity learned from centuries of conflict. Engage stealth drives and proceed to attack Vector Theta 9. The human fleet moved like sharks through dark water, their vessels barely detectable against the cosmic background. They had learned this tactic from submarine warfare in Earth's oceans, adapted it for space combat, while other galactic species engaged in massive fleet confrontations, broadcasting their positions with active sensors and shields. Humans had developed a different philosophy. But strike from the shadows, hit hard, disappear. On Vrekth Prime, Supreme Overlord Krath received the first casualty reports with disbelief. What do you mean 3 supply convoys were destroyed? He demanded. Where were their escorts? Skell's voice trembled as he delivered the news. The Supreme Overlord, the escorts were present. They detected nothing until the attacks began. The humans used what appeared to be kinetic weapons accelerated to near-light speed. By the time our shields activated, the projectiles had already penetrated the hulls. Our ships were destroyed before they could return fire. Grath stood from his throne, his massive form towering over the command center. Kinetic weapons? That is ancient technology. No species has used physical projectiles in warfare for over 1,000 years. Yes, Supreme Overlord, but the humans have perfected them in ways we never considered. They are using tungsten rods accelerated by electromagnetic launchers. At those velocities, our energy shields are useless. The projectiles pass through them before the shields can disperse the energy. For the first time in his long military career, Krath felt something unfamiliar creep into his consciousness. Doubt. The humans were not fighting like any enemy he had faced before. They were not following the established rules of galactic warfare. Across the Vrekth Dominion, panic began to spread. Human strike teams appeared from nowhere, destroyed critical infrastructure, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Their weapons were strange combinations of primitive and advanced technology that confused Vrekth tactical analysts. Railguns that could punch through ship hulls, missiles that used chemical propulsion but carried nuclear warheads of terrifying yield, cyber warfare programs that infiltrated Vrekth networks with unprecedented sophistication. On Earth, President Carmen Martinez watched the battle reports with grim satisfaction. Beside her, Secretary of Defense Jonathan Blake provided updates. Madam President, our losses are within acceptable parameters. We have lost 6 vessels and approximately 800 personnel. Vrektis casualties are estimated at over 50,000, with 12 major installations destroyed and their supply lines in chaos. Carmen nodded, but there was no joy in her expression. Every life lost is a tragedy, Jonathan. But the Vrek need to understand that humanity will not be bullied. What is the status of our diplomatic backchannels? Several neutral species have reached out quietly. The Kellen, the Threx Collective, and the Mindari Confederacy. They are expressing concern about the escalation and are willing to mediate. Good. But we do not negotiate from a position of weakness. Continue the offensive operations. Make it clear that we will accept nothing less than full reparations for New Terra and a formal apology from the Galactic Unity Council. Yes, Madam President. In the Galactic Unity Council chambers, emergency sessions were being called hourly. The other species watched with growing alarm as the Vrekth Dominion, one of the most powerful military forces in known space, struggled against the human onslaught. The Threk's ambassador, a crystalline being whose facets glowed with internal light, addressed the assembly. This conflict must end before it spreads. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not know they possessed. If we allow this war to continue, it could destabilize the entire galactic order. The Ulayan ambassador pulsed an agreement. I propose we formally censure the Vrekth Dominion for their attack on New Terra and offer to mediate a peace settlement. But the Vrekth High Commander, still present despite the ongoing war, refused. We will not bow to a species of primitives. Our fleet is mobilizing. Within 1 week, we will crush the human resistance and make an example of Earth itself. The threat hung in the air like poison. Every species in the chamber knew what that meant. Orbital bombardment, the same fate that had befallen New Terra but inflicted upon humanity's homeworld. On the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Chen received intelligence that changed everything. His face grew pale as he read the decoded transmission. "Commander Stevens, get me a priority channel to Earth immediately," Chen ordered. The Vrekth are assembling a battle fleet. 500 ships. Destination: Sol System. The message reached Earth within hours through quantum-entangled communication nodes. President Martinez called an emergency meeting of her cabinet and military leadership. "They are coming for our home," she said simply. "General Nicole Harper, what are our defensive capabilities?" General Harper, head of Earth Defense Command, brought up a holographic display of the Sol system. "We have fortifications around Earth, Mars, and the Jupiter station. Approximately 200 ships in defensive positions. But against 500 Vrekth warships, we will be overwhelmed. Their technology is more advanced. Their shields are stronger. Their weapons have greater range." The room fell silent. The mathematics were brutal and unforgiving. Then Admiral Victor Kane, the oldest officer present, spoke up. "Madam President, there is one option we have not discussed. Project Wildfire." Every head turned toward him. Project Wildfire was the most classified program in human history. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Carmen met his gaze steadily. "Explain." "For the past 15 years, we have been developing a weapon based on theoretical physics that no other species has explored. The other galactic races rely on energy weapons and matter-antimatter reactions. We took a different approach. We weaponized gravity itself." He brought up schematics that showed a device unlike anything in the galactic arsenal. "We call it a singularity bomb. It creates a localized black hole that exists for approximately 3 seconds before evaporating. In that time, it devours everything within a radius of 5,000 kilometers. Ships, stations, planets if deployed close enough." "How many do we have?" Carmen asked. 12 functional devices. Enough to protect Earth, but deployment means revealing our most advanced technology to the galaxy. Once they know we have this capability, they will either unite against us in fear or they will seek to steal it. Carmen stood and walked to the window overlooking the capital. Outside, people went about their daily lives, unaware that 500 warships were coming to destroy everything they had ever known. "The Vrekth forced this war," she said quietly. "They killed 3 million of our people without mercy or hesitation. If we do not stop them now, they will kill billions. Activate Project Wildfire. Prepare our defenses. And send a message to the Galactic Unity. Tell them that if the Vrekth fleet enters the Sol system, we will unleash weapons that will change the nature of warfare forever. Give them one chance to call off this attack. Just one." The message was transmitted across all galactic channels. For the first time, humanity revealed the existence of weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. The response from the Galactic Unity was immediate and divided. Some species called for an immediate ceasefire, but others accused humanity of bluffing. But the Vrekth Supreme Overlord Krath saw it as confirmation of his worst suspicions. "The humans are dangerous," he declared to his war council. "They have developed weapons in secret while pretending to be weak. This proves they cannot be trusted. Our fleet will proceed to Earth and eliminate this threat before it grows beyond our control." The 500 ships of the Vrekth Armada began their journey toward humanity's homeworld. And in the depths of space, both sides prepared for a battle that would determine the future of the galaxy. The journey of the Vrekth Armada took 6 days at maximum, faster than light speed. During that time, the galaxy held its breath. Diplomatic channels burned with frantic communications as neutral species attempted to broker a peace agreement. But both sides had moved beyond negotiation. On Earth, cities enacted emergency protocols. Civilians were evacuated to underground shelters that had been constructed in secret over the past 2 decades. The government had never truly trusted the galactic unity, and that paranoia had led to preparations that now might save billions of lives. Lieutenant Karen Mills stood on the observation deck of the orbital defense platform Guardian 7, watching the preparations below. Supply shuttles moved between Earth and the defensive positions. Military personnel worked around the clock to ready weapons systems. Behind her, her commanding officer, Colonel Frank Morrison, approached. "Nervous, Lieutenant?" he asked. "Terrified, sir," Karen admitted. "I joined the Space Force because I wanted to explore, not fight." "None of us wanted this war," Frank said. "But the Vrekt made a choice when they destroyed New Terra. Now we make our choice. Do we surrender and hope for mercy, or do we stand and fight?" "We fight, sir." "Exactly. And Lieutenant, we have advantages they do not understand. Remember your training. Remember that every human in this system has something the Vrekt lack." "What is that, sir?" "Adaptability. They have been the dominant power for so long that they forgot how to innovate. They fight the same way they have for 1,000 years. We have had to reinvent ourselves every generation just to survive. That makes us dangerous." The Vrekt fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, their 500 warships forming an intimidating wall of firepower. Supreme Overlord Krath stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator, surveying the primitive system before him. "A scan for human defenses," he ordered. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of contacts. Space stations, weapons platforms, and ships clustered around Earth and Mars. But something was wrong. "Supreme Overlord, we are detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system. There are objects in orbit around Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune that do not match any known human technology. They appear to be weapons platforms, but their power output is enormous." Krath studied the display, the singularity weapons they threatened us with. They have placed them throughout their system as a defensive network. Clever, but futile. Our shields will withstand their conventional weapons long enough to destroy those platforms. All ships proceed to attack formation. Target the weapons platforms first, then move on to their homeworld. The Armada began its approach, moving like a tide of metal and energy toward Earth. But as they passed the orbit of Neptune, the first platform activated. The singularity bomb did not explode in the traditional sense. It simply created a point in space where gravity became infinite. The nearest Vrekt ships detected the anomaly half a second before it activated. Their shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against the fundamental force of the universe. 17 ships were consumed instantly, their matter compressed into the temporary black hole before it evaporated. The Vrekt fleet scattered in panic, their tight formation breaking as captains sought to avoid the deadly devices. "Evasive maneuvers!" Krath roared. "Target those platforms and destroy them." But the platforms were not stationary. They moved on gravitational slings, using Jupiter's massive gravity well to accelerate to incredible velocities. The Vrekt weapons fire passed through empty space where the platforms had been moments before. Another singularity activated near Saturn. This time, 23 Vrekt ships were caught in its pull. Their final transmissions were cut off mid-scream as they were torn apart by tidal forces. On the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with cold precision. "Excellent. The enemy has lost 40 ships, and they have not even reached Mars orbit. All human vessels maintain defensive positions. Let them come to us." The Vrekt Armada pushed forward, more cautious now, but driven by rage and pride. They could not retreat. To do so would be to admit that humans, a species they had considered inferior, had defeated them. As they approached Mars, Earth's fleet opened fire. But they did not use the energy weapons the Vrekt expected. Instead, railguns launched tungsten projectiles at relativistic speeds. Missiles with nuclear warheads closed in from multiple vectors, and from hidden positions in the asteroid belt, human ships emerged with weapons that combined plasma and magnetic fields in ways that bypassed Vrekt shield harmonics. The battle became chaos. Vrekt ships exploded under the onslaught of weapons that should not have been effective against their advanced shields. Their return fire destroyed human vessels, but the exchange rate was not in their favor. For every human ship lost, 4 Vrekt vessels were destroyed. Captain Linda Hayes commanded the destroyer Relentless in the thick of the fighting. Her ship dodged energy beams while her crew targeted enemy vessels with precision strikes. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "The Dominator. If we can take out their supreme overlord, their fleet will lose coordination." Her weapons officer, Ensign Marcus Wright, locked on to the massive flagship. Firing solution acquired. Launching kinetic spread. 40 tungsten rods, each weighing 2 tons and traveling at 0.9 light speed, streaked toward the Dominator. The flagship's shields flickered and failed under the barrage. Holes appeared in its hull. Atmosphere vented into space. On the Dominator's bridge, alarms screamed.
Supreme Overlord Kraft clung to his command throne as the ship shuddered from impact after impact. Damage report, he demanded.
Hull breaches on deck 7 through 15. We have lost engines 2 and 4. Shield generators are offline. Kraft could not believe what was happening. His mighty armada was being dismantled by a species that should have been helpless before Vrechthmite. How had everything gone so wrong? All ships retreat to Rally Point Delta, he ordered. We regroup and reassess. But the human fleet did not allow an orderly retreat. They pursued, harrying the Vrechth ships like wolves chasing wounded prey. More vessels fell. The retreat became a rout. By the time the surviving Vrechth ships escaped the Sol system, over 300 vessels had been destroyed. The remaining ships limped back toward Vrechth space, their crews traumatized and defeated. Supreme Overlord Kraft sat alone in his damaged quarters, staring at casualty reports. Over 200,000 Vrechth warriors dead. The pride of the Dominion shattered. And the humans had lost fewer than 60 ships. For the first time in Vrechth history, they had been decisively beaten. And the galaxy would never forget. News of the Battle of Sol spread through galactic space at the speed of light, carried by automated communication beacons and terrified survivors. The Vrechth Dominion, which had stood unchallenged for 3,000 years, had been humiliated by humanity. The implications were staggering. In the Galactic Unity Council chambers, emergency sessions continued non-stop. Species that had remained neutral scrambled to reassess their positions. Some saw opportunity, others saw danger. All recognized that the balance of power had shifted. The Threx's ambassador addressed the assembly with urgency. We must act immediately to contain this conflict before it escalates further. The humans have demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our most aggressive estimates. If they choose to expand their campaign beyond the Vrechth, none of us are safe. The Mindori delegate, a serpentine creature with scales that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, hissed softly. You speak of containing the humans as if they are the aggressors. The Vrechth destroyed their colony. The Vrag invaded their home system. The humans merely defended themselves. Defended themselves with weapons that can create black holes, the Threx's ambassador countered. Defended themselves with technology they deliberately concealed from the galactic community. What else are they hiding? What other weapons have they developed in secret? The Alean ambassador pulsed with calming colors. Fear will not serve us. We must approach humanity with respect and openness. They have proven they cannot be intimidated or conquered. Therefore, we must find a path to peace. But even as the council debated, events were moving beyond their control. The Vrechth's Supreme Command, reeling from their defeat, made a decision born of desperation and rage. If they could not defeat humanity militarily, they would destroy the species through other means. Deep in Vrechth space, in a secret research facility known only to the highest levels of government, scientists worked on a biological weapon specifically engineered to target human DNA. It was a virus, deadly and efficient, that would spread through the human population and eliminate them within months. The project was called Final Solution, and it represented the darkest aspect of Vrechth civilization. They had used such weapons before, against species that had resisted their expansion. It was genocide, plain and simple. But the Vrechth leadership convinced themselves it was necessary for galactic security. The intelligence network that Earth had developed over the past 2 decades detected the project within 72 hours of its activation. Deep cover agents, both human and sympathetic aliens, transmitted encrypted warnings back to Earth. President Carmen Martinez listened to the intelligence briefing with a face carved from ice. Around her, her cabinet sat in stunned silence. They are creating a plague to wipe out humanity, she said. Not as a question, but as a statement of fact. After everything, after we defeated their fleet, they choose this path. Secretary of Defense Jonathan Blake spoke carefully. Madam President, we have options. Our Special Operations Forces can infiltrate the facility and destroy the project. It will be dangerous, and we may lose people, but it is possible. Do it, Carmen ordered. But Jonathan, I want more than destruction. I want every piece of data from that facility. I want to know how they created this weapon, what other biological weapons they have, and who authorized the project. The galaxy needs to see what the Vrechth truly are. Yes, Madam President. The operation was designated Cleansing Fire. A team of 12 operatives led by Commander Kyle Morrison's younger brother, Captain Andrew Morrison, infiltrated Vrecht space aboard a modified cargo ship that had been captured during the Battle of Sol. The ship's transponder broadcast Vrecht identification codes, allowing them to approach the research facility without raising alarms. The facility orbited a dead moon in a system that was not on any public star charts. It was isolated, heavily guarded, and considered impregnable by Vrecht standards. But the Vrecht had never faced human special operations forces. Andrew Morrison and his team used technology that seemed like magic to the Vrecht guards. Optical camouflage that bent light around their bodies, making them nearly invisible. Weapons that fired electromagnetic pulses to disable electronic systems without creating explosive signatures. And neural disruptors that could incapacitate targets without killing them, though the team was prepared to use lethal force if necessary. They moved through the facility like ghosts, bypassing security checkpoints and avoiding patrols. Their objective was the central data core, where all research information was stored. Meanwhile, outside the facility, Lieutenant Karen Mills piloted a stealth fighter equipped with experimental weapons. Her mission was to provide covering fire if the infiltration team was discovered. She waited in the shadow of the moon, her sensors scanning for any sign of trouble. Inside the facility, Andrew Morrison reached the data core. His technical specialist, Sergeant Lisa Cooper, began downloading the files while the rest of the team established a defensive perimeter. "How long?" Andrew whispered into his comm. 3 minutes, Lisa replied. "There are petabytes of data here. Research on biological weapons going back centuries. Captain, they have done this before. Multiple species have been exterminated using these methods." Andrew felt cold rage settle into his chest. Download everything the galaxy needs to know. But their presence had not gone undetected. A Vrecht scientist working late on calculations noticed an anomaly in the system access logs. He triggered an alarm, klaxons blared throughout the facility. Security forces mobilized. Andrew Morrison made a split-second decision. "Lisa, how much have you downloaded?" 60%, sir. "It will have to be enough. Pack it up. We are leaving now." The team moved toward the extraction point, but Vrecht soldiers blocked their path. The humans opened fire with their advanced weapons, dropping the guards with precise shots. But more were coming. "Mills, we need extraction now," Andrew called over the comm. Karen Mills brought her fighters screaming around the moon, her weapons hot. She saw the team pinned down at the facility's landing bay, surrounded by Vrecht forces. She did not hesitate. Her fighters' missiles launched, striking the facility's shield generators. The protective barrier flickered and collapsed. Then she brought her ship in low, her cannons shredding Vrecht defensive positions. "Get on board!" she shouted. The team sprinted for the fighter as it hovered above the landing platform, its boarding ramp extended. They piled inside, and Karen accelerated away from the facility just as Vrecht reinforcements arrived. Energy beams lanced through space, trying to target her fighter. But Karen had trained for this her entire career. She dodged and weaved, pushing her ship to its limits as she escaped into the dark between stars. Behind her, the facility scrambled interceptors, but they were too slow. The human team escaped with the stolen data, carrying evidence of crimes that would shock the galaxy. On Earth, President Martinez reviewed the data with her senior staff. The files contained detailed records of 17 species that had been targeted with biological weapons by the Vrecht over the past 2,000 years. Entire civilizations erased because they had resisted Vrecht expansion or possessed resources the Dominion wanted. "Release everything to the public galactic network," Carmen ordered. "Let every species see what the Vrecht have done. Let them understand what kind of civilization holds a seat on the Unity Council." The data dump hit the galactic information networks like a bomb. Within hours, species across known space were reading the files, seeing the evidence, and reacting with horror and outrage. The Threx discovered that their ancient enemies, a species called the Korthan, had not died from natural plague as history recorded. They had been murdered by Vrecht biological weapons. The Mindari learned that a colony that had vanished 300 years ago had been exterminated the same way. On Vrecht Prime, Supreme Overlord Krath watched as his civilization's darkest secrets were exposed to the universe. Protests erupted on allied worlds. Trade partners severed relationships. Even within the Vrecht Dominion, there were rumblings of dissent as younger generations questioned the morality of their leadership. The Galactic Unity Council convened an emergency session. This time, there was no debate. The Vrecht High Commander was expelled from the chamber. Economic sanctions were imposed, and a coalition of 30 species, led by the Kulin and the Threx, formally condemned the Vrecht Dominion for crimes against sentient life. But humanity was not satisfied with mere condemnation. President Martinez addressed the galaxy directly via holographic broadcast. "People of the Galactic Unity," she began, "for 50 years, humanity has been a junior member of your community. We have followed your laws, respected your territories, and sought to learn from your civilizations. But we have also watched. We have studied your politics, your power structures, and your moral compromises. And we have seen that the galaxy is not governed by justice, but by fear and convenience. The Vrecht destroyed our colony, killing 3 million people, and the Unity did nothing. They created biological weapons to exterminate entire species, and the Unity looked away. They attacked our homeworld with 500 warships, intending to commit genocide, and the Unity debated procedure. This is not a community we can trust. This is not a civilization we wish to join. Therefore, Earth and all human colonies are withdrawing from the Galactic Unity. We will establish our own confederation, with our own laws based on principles of individual rights and collective defense. Any species that wishes to join us in building a new galactic order is welcome. Any species that threatens our people will face the full might of human military technology. We seek peace, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves and our allies. The galaxy has changed. The age of dominance by ancient powers is over. The age of freedom has begun." The broadcast ended. Across human space, celebrations erupted. They had not only survived the Vrecht assault, they had won their independence from a galactic order that had betrayed them. But the speech had consequences beyond what anyone anticipated. Within days, 17 species formally requested to join the Human Confederation. They were smaller civilizations, species that had been marginalized by the great powers, and they saw in humanity a chance for true representation. The Threx Collective, one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, sent a private communication to Earth offering a mutual defense pact. The Mindari Confederacy proposed a scientific exchange program, eager to learn about human innovation. Even the Keelan, who had always advocated for peace, quietly reached out to express admiration for humanity's moral courage. The galaxy was realizing that something fundamental had shifted. Humanity had not just won a war, they had challenged the entire existing order and offered an alternative. And that alternative was appealing to many who had suffered under the old system. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the Human Confederation had grown to include 23 species. They established a new capital on a neutral world called New Horizon, where representatives from all member species worked together to build a government based on equality and mutual respect. President Carmen Martinez stood on the balcony of the new Capitol building. Looking out over the diverse crowd below, humans walked alongside Threx, Mindari, and a dozen other species, all working together to build something better than what had come before. Secretary of Defense Jonathan Blake joined her, carrying a data pad with the latest military reports. "The Vrecht have requested a formal peace treaty," he said. "They are offering full reparations for New Terra, surrender of all biological weapons programs, and recognition of the Human Confederation as an independent political entity." "And what do they want in return?" Carmen asked. "Merely that we do not pursue further military action against their territory. They are terrified of us, Madam President. The entire galaxy is." Carmen shook her head. "They should not be terrified of us. They should be terrified of what they almost became. The Vrecht let power corrupt them so completely that they lost sight of basic morality. That is the true danger." She turned to face Jonathan. "Accept their peace offer, but with conditions. They must submit to independent inspections of their military facilities. They must publicly apologize not just to humanity, but to every species they have wronged. And they must reduce their military to defensive levels only. If they agree to these terms, we will have peace." "They will agree," Jonathan said. "They have no choice. Our intelligence shows that internal dissent within the Vrecht Dominion is growing. Their younger generations are ashamed of what their leaders did. There may be a revolution coming. Then we should prepare to help them," Carmen said. "Not with weapons or control, but with the example of how a just society can function. That will be our greatest contribution to the galaxy." The peace treaty was signed 3 weeks later. The Vrecht agreed to all human demands, their pride finally broken by the weight of their crimes and their military defeat. But more importantly, they began the difficult process of internal reform, purging the most extreme elements of their government and establishing safeguards against future abuses of power. The Galactic Unity Council, meanwhile, faced its own reckoning. Member species demanded reforms. The old system of allowing powerful civilizations to dictate policy was challenged. New rules were established, including provisions for intervention in cases of genocide and stronger protections for smaller species. In many ways, the galaxy that emerged from the Human-Vrekth War was fundamentally different from the one that had existed before. The ancient powers still wielded influence, but they no longer controlled everything. Newer voices were heard, dissent was tolerated, and the threat of human military intervention kept the most aggressive species in check. On Earth, life gradually returned to normal. The underground shelters were emptied, cities rebuilt, but humanity itself was changed. They had proven themselves in